This gun lights your fireman, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
I'm still getting over the fact that I stayed up for the entire game last night and it ended on a play like that, but that's sports. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about a few of the players that are not considered NFL or fantasy stars that are being talked about around water coolers today. Now, if you own any of the top handful of fantasy performers from Week 12 so far, like Josh Gordon, Noshawn Marino, Jamal Charles, or even Phillip Rivers, these are guys that should all be in your lineups every single week, regardless of matchup or weather or whatever. Your elite fantasy players need to play every week, and if they have a bad week or two, you can't take them out. You can't. You have to just keep running them out there, or you're going to miss out. Now, take someone like Josh Gordon, for example. In his last 6 games, he rattled off 126 yards, 132 yards, 125, and 237. And sandwiched in between those was a game with just 21 yards in Week 7 and just 44 yards in Week 9. And after both of those weeks, viewers were tweeting me asking me if they should bench him or trade him. Don't worry about the quarterback or the players surrounding them. Don't worry about the matchups. Don't worry if the teams are any good. If you have an elite NFL fantasy player, pencil them in every single week that they suit up. All right, now let's take a look at some of these other players. Julian Edelman had 9 receptions, 410 yards, and 2 touchdowns last night, and he's certainly not widely owned. So how do we view him? Well, one thing is clear to me, and the fact that Tom Brady started off the season without a clear go-to guy is helping Brady and the Patriots at this point in the season. At different times during the season, Aaron Dobson, Kimbrel Tompkins, Danny Amendola, and Julian Edelman have all felt the love from Brady. So, to some extent, Brady has become the Drew Brees of the Northeast. Why? Because defenses can't key in on anyone other than Gronk, because he'll throw it to any one of these guys at any time, even in a big spot. You throw in Shane Vereen into the mix, who's the new Kevin Falk there, and there's no telling where the ball's going. To me, though, Edelman is the best of that bunch of wideouts in terms of the likelihood of both getting targets and the ability to run after the catch. And he certainly does a much better job of filling the Wes Welker role than Danny Amendola does. I think Julian Edelman should absolutely be considered for those of you who play in PPR formats. Next up, it is Bart Simpson. Now, if you've been following along here, I spoke about the fact that Bobby Rainey was not a good start this past week and how he won't be next week either because of who he was facing. Yesterday, he faced the Lions, who were 4th against the run, and in Week 13, he's going to face the Panthers, who were 3rd against the run. Now, we did talk about what a great play Mike Glennon and all his receivers would likely be, mentioning both Tyquan Underwood and Timothy Wright, specifically because the Lions secondary can't cover a grave. Now, they did a decent job on Vincent Jackson, but both Underwood and Wright had nice days. Underwood had a good standard day, and Wright a good PPR day. Now, Tyquan Underwood has clearly become the number 2 wide receiver for the Bucs, and while he may perform, I don't expect him to be a heavily targeted option, and I wouldn't use him in PPR formats, and I can't really see using him at all in Week 13 against the Panthers. The other guy that's getting a lot of attention is Carson Palmer. Now, Palmer has gone from the don't waste my time list to someone who has started to change the opinion of many. He's now put up back-to-back weeks of 419 yards and 314 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions in each, and he's got to be opening eyes for people who are limping into the playoffs with struggling quarterbacks. Now, here's my thing about Carson. The Cardinals clearly have a shot at the playoffs, but I can't help thinking that a blow-up game is going to happen at any moment. Now, the Cardinals play at Philadelphia, home against the Rams, at Tennessee, at Seattle, and finish up home against the 49ers. Now, this one doesn't come down to science, it's simply a matter of risk tolerance. And I have absolutely no confidence in Palmer's ability to remain consistent. However, I'd be lying if I didn't say his upside is better than many of the other options out there. Today's Twitter question comes from @Jade15, who wants to know who I think the single best keeper out there is that's still likely to be found on waiver wire lists. Well, to me, this one's pretty simple. It's Ladarius Green. Now, I know he's stuck behind Antonio Gates on the depth chart, but he's an athletic freak of nature with a combination of size, speed, and hands, and you can certainly see why they're starting to find ways to get him the ball. because it'd be a crime not to. So in my eyes, he's clearly the single best, not widely owned keeper in the game. So Jade, hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you're able to get it. Now, if you've got a question you want answered, hit me up with a tweet. And if I don't use your question on the program, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune in to the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition. And on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football as I team up with the King, Scott Engel, covering the week that was and the week that will be, answering your viewer questions. So don't miss that. Now tonight's Monday Night Football with the 49ers traveling to play the team that plays in Washington with RG3. Hopefully this one will be as dramatic as last night's game. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano. Enjoy the game, everyone.